Okay, so you graduated. At that point, were you thinking, "Hey, I want this to be my job," or I mean, what were you thinking when you got out of school?
Yeah, I was. I was like, this will be awesome. I'll print posters for bands all the time. Again, kind of right time and place. Letterpress printing has really come into the public consciousness a lot in the last 10 years, and was fortunate enough to get in on the early side and was able to acquire equipment and type and things. Again, like if I was graduating school today and I needed to put a shop together, it would be pretty tough. So fortunate enough to be able to buy like something, a larger press as I was graduating college, and did print a lot of things for bands. Was not able to make that a full-time job, which is not surprising. But then, like, the people in bands started to get married and have kids, and they were like, "Can you print some wedding invitations? Like, can you print they're like, I have money for my wedding invitations," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I had met, just knew a lot of folks in the design world, and some of those folks were either coming up in the agency side of things or were on the freelance side of things. They were getting clients, and they'd say, "Hey, can you print this for me?" And so that's kind of where the custom side comes in. And so to give a little explanation on that, the type of printing that we do at Repeat now, it's pretty rare that we use the existing type. We're now able to, we can take digital files and turn them into a custom raised surface to print off of. And so the end result is the kind of tactile feel that a lot of people like about letterpress, but it's not limited to the existing aesthetic of the movable type.
So at that point, were you in Western Mass? When did you move to Somerville at this point?
I moved to, so when I finished school, I moved to South Boston. I lived at the distillery building for about a year. And that was kind of where I tried to be a full-time letterpress printer at age 23, right out of college. And that did not really work. And so after a year, I moved to Philadelphia for a bit because it's super cheap to live there, and then came back. I don't know. I moved to Somerville in 2007 and was doing stuff kind of on the side, and then in 2009, Fringe started up, and at that point, I moved the shop from South Boston to Somerville.
Okay, yeah. So take us through the South Boston days, the Philly days, and then the Somerville days. Like, what was your life like at that point?
Philly's not really worth talking about. I mean, Philly's a great city. Philly was kind of like an extended summer vacation where I was just riding my bike around and playing rock, paper, scissors. Competitively. Number 2 in the city. Devastating loss in the finals. But South Boston was cool. Like, I started to meet some people who were doing arts and creative stuff in the city, and like I said, I was in the distillery building, which if people aren't familiar with, is a really great live-work building in South Boston now. And now they have a couple galleries in the building, which weren't there when I was there. But got to meet some people. Got to have like my own studio for the first time, even though it didn't really work out. And so when I moved out, I let some friends kind of take care of all my stuff for a year or so, and then came back, started to gradually get more into it, and yeah, and then things started to pick up a little bit on this new custom side of things, and eventually just had more work than I could handle as a side business, and made the jump to full time.
So, what inspired the move to Somerville? Was it space, or was it, what was it?
It was cheap, and I had friends here. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, and
it
then,
was familiar. I mean, I grew up around Boston, so it was a familiar area, and but yeah, I mean, I could get an apartment for $500 a month. So.
Okay, and then tell us a little bit about, like, let's say that we were all wanting to start our own letterpress studios in, what year was this? Did you say 07 or?
I went full time in 09.
Okay, so in 07, what did you need to know, /09, what did you need to know if you were trying to start a letterpress studio? Like, give us some of the flavor and color of, like the good and the bad and the ugly.
So I started with some pretty minimal equipment and some major promises to people, and like thought I could tough it out for a long time. And so the lesson would be like, don't be afraid of spending money on things that will make your life way, way easier. So some of the presses that I showed, kind of the progression of machinery that we acquired for the shop. I buzzed through them pretty quickly, and it's the machine. It probably looks the same to everybody, but there's presses that are slower, there's presses that are faster, and the faster ones are a little bit more complicated to operate, but ultimately, if you're trying to operate a business, they make a lot more sense. Yeah, so there was like a time where I was like, oh, like someday it would probably be cool to have one of those, and then like a week after I bought one finally and had it operating, I was like, oh, nice work, you just wasted the last year. And then I was like, oh, maybe I should have 2 of these someday, and then dragged my feet on that. And as soon as I had a second one, it was like immediately worth it. So that would be the big lesson, is don't do that.